So in today's video, I'm going to be building the frame fire pit, and it's a fire pit and grill and a little coffee table where the stainless steel grill slides under the little side table built into it to store it away. Let's get into it. So this is mostly built out of tube steel and plate steel. This is some scrap material I have laying around. The tools I use are grinders, cutting wheels, sanding pads, tape measure, soapstone, and miscellaneous clamps. So the first thing I do is start all my compound miter cuts. These are actually pretty difficult to do because you got to do a 45 on two sides and then a 90 degrees on the other two sides so they meet up. So when you have three joints coming together, they all meet at a miter. So I don't really worry about my first cut. I just mark it, get it cut, get the shape right. See, compound miter. And then from here, I measure the next side. And I usually measure 1/16 past what length I want. And I cut on the line because my cutting wheel is about 1/16 inch thick. That way when I cut and take the line, it's pretty much exactly where I need it to be. Keep trying to show the cut, but I didn't realize it was off screen. So that's my other 45. Let it drop. There we go. Now I take my sanding pad out to clean up my cuts, kind of deburr them, and kind of get the shape just right, because with a grinder it's kind of hard. Now if you had a chop saw and everything like that, that would make life easier, but I try to make life a little harder on myself, so I just use grinders and sanding pads. Now I'm going to line up cutting the rest of my pieces. So I mark my miter first, get my 45s, then my 90s on both sides, clamp it so I don't have a lot of movement, maybe plug in the grinder, make my first cut, turn the piece so I can get my second cut. I like to change my cutting wheel pretty often. It's just a personal preference. I know it's quite a bit of waste, but here's all the frame pieces. Then I clamp down tubes on my sawhorses. I try to make them level. That way I could start to get all my pieces square and in line. Then with a framer square, I make sure these pieces are lined up. Use my pinch clamp on the inside of that miter and use the hammer to, push the pieces where they need to be. Clamp it down. I decided to set up my welder and tack that first piece in place. Now I like to tack and then put it all together and check for square before I full weld anything, because that's bit me in the butt before, is I'd full weld it and then it wasn't square, so I'd have to cut it all loose. Pretty much start from step one all over, which isn't fun. There we go, clamp it, check for square. Use the hammer to kind of beat it into place. Tack. Lock it in. Now this is the rest of the pieces. Kind of measure on each of them to make sure it's all lined up, and then I check my diagonal dimension to make sure they're the same. Now if they're not the same, then you have something slightly out of square. If you're building a rectangular or square shape, those diagonal measurements should be the same. Now I'm going to start to put my legs on. So I clamp an angle that I could clamp my leg to. I use a large angle, I think it's a 4x4. It's square, and then I hammer it into place so everything kind of flushes and aligns. I use my larger square to check the other side. And then I use a diagonal brace to lock it into place. There's my diagonal, put my square on, check it. Gotta hit it around because sometimes it moves. And lock. Now, tack. And I believe these, if I can, I was full welding these after I tagged each kind of corner. That way it's just locked in. And while I'm preparing my other piece, I like to keep the clamps on for just a short period of time so that way it doesn't move while the weld is cool. And really just repeat that step. And that's what it looks like. Now I'm putting on the angle iron track for the grill. So I just clamp across, clamp it in place, and then tack it down. And I usually like to go end, center, end, or end, and then center, and then do all my infill welds. That way, your piece isn't moving. Believe it or not, steel moves when you put heat to it. And the lighter the gauge of the steel, the more movement you're going to get with heat. So try not to heat it in a line, because it'll start to be like a banana. Literally. It's weird, but it happens. So here's just the frame, cleaning it up with a sanding pad to accentuate that miter. Now I could blacken this after the fact, but it's an outdoor piece and it's all gonna rust, so these grinder marks will all disappear when all the steel is rusted. Next, I'm gonna build the fire pit. First major step is to clean all the edges. That's a sheared edge cut from a steel factory. I use the sanding pad to clean all these edges. I try to make sure there's no like sharp points, kind of round it out, because I know people might drag their hands across it to move it or something. So I don't want to have any chances of someone cutting themselves. And I believe this shipped off to Massachusetts. I'm not sure. This is a mill finish edge. You can see how it's smooth from the mill. I still like to clean these and smooth them. So I build this like I do all my other fire pits. I'm gonna put a link above so you could check that out. So now that my frame's built, and so is the fire pit, I'm gonna put my coffee table on. I had it cut to size. I cleaned the edges. Now I'm gonna clamp it so it doesn't move. Turn it over and weld it from the underside. I like to hide all my welds, so I try to think about where my welds could be so you don't see them from the user end. And now I'm going to add the fire pit. I kind of had this idea in the back of my head for like a long time and was kind of trying to play with how to do it properly. And really, my buddy Mike, he wanted a fire pit, seeing some of the ones I made, and he wanted a grill. And I was like, dude, I got kind of idea I've been playing around with. So I kind of sent him the sketches and we figured it out together to like, how deep do we want it to have enough wood in there? You know, how big is the side plate? Should it be bigger than the grill that you slide under it? Should it be slightly smaller so you could grab it? So it was kind of fun to kind of work this out with my buddy Mike. He is a glazing subcontractor and like a wood wizard. He builds like a lot of really cool stuff out of wood. So shout out to him. But the first pit I built is actually sitting in his yard. This is the second one I built, which I sell on Etsy. gonna flip it over so you can kind of see the guts of it. Little smiley face. Now what I got to do is on those legs, I like to add little leg levelers in case it's sitting on an uneven surface. So I got those parts from McMaster-Carr. What I do is I cut this angle down so it fits within the tube, because tubes have little, like the tube legs, they have little radiuses on the inside. So then I'm going to drill and tap. I always use cutting oil to drill my hole. And then I use my tap with oil to tap the hole. And what this does is it basically threads that hole I drilled, much like a nut for a screw. So this is a 1032 tap. Now I'm going to remark it so it fits inside the tube, cutting some pieces at an angle so it slides inside that tube leg, cutting it straight, and then I'm going to thread a screw on there so I know it works. Did that 4 times. Now I'm going to tack weld those into place, fully weld it, move on to the next leg, get them all welded on there. Then I unthread the screw out, clean up the weld so there's no sharp points. And there it is. Yeah, so that was the build. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It does take quite a bit of time with all those compound cuts. I probably built that over a span of a few days. And what I plan, actually probably like 4 or 5 different days. And what I plan on doing for my next build is I'm gonna build an ego riser for my buddy Amphi for his pop punk band. Basically it's, you know, what musicians stand on while they're on stage to, you know, rise them up. And then after that, I'm going to build some outdoor furniture. So I've got a chair design that I already did a video of how I designed it, but now I actually got to build it. And it's just so hot here and it's the summertime. So I've been kind of avoiding working with metal. But yeah, that's something I'll be doing. Well, anyways, my goal on this channel is I like to build stuff, and I'm also fascinated with tech. And so sometimes I do some videos to show you how to make your videos look and sound more professional, or sometimes I'll do a build, or sometimes it's a video of a project because I'm a builder that I'm working on. So if any of that interests you, please hit the subscribe button. And if you like the music playing in the background, that is called Stream Tunes Lo-Fi Beats on Spotify, and it's royalty-free music. Check it out. Other than that, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.